Welcome to 2023. I know I just did a video recently. Actually, I guess it wasn't too recent. It was 6 months ago, 7 months ago. It was in June of my video game collection, but I've added some more games since then, so I decided I'm going to do a video on my collection every year. I was thinking maybe the first video of the year, so let's kind of show what I got here. Top shelf, I got all my PlayStation 2 games, and I keep them in alphabetical order for the most part. The Grand Theft Auto games, I put those in chronological order. Monopoly right there, that's my favorite Monopoly game. I've got Monopoly on multiple consoles, but my favorite one's the PS2 version. Some of these games I have not played yet, like Star Wars game right there. Got GameCube games also on the top shelf. And some of those I haven't done yet either. Got the Wii and Wii-U games. Now, I've been having problems. I don't have my Wii hooked up. I have my Wii-U hooked up because I could play Wii or Wii-U games on it. I'm currently having problems with it, so might either have to buy a new console or mess around with it, see if I can figure it out. In the end there, we got two Sega Genesis games that are boxed. Got both Sonic 1 and 2. On the end there, I got an amiibo of Yoshi. I currently have 346 physical games. Next shelf, got NES. This one, some of the titles are kind of hard to see. This one's Bayou Billy. I've got some Tengen games, or Tengen, however you want to pronounce it, which are unlicensed games. I'm going to kind of stay away from unlicensed NES games and just focus on the original licensed games, because otherwise it just gets out of control. I do have this one, which I specifically ordered, Bible Adventures, because that's just got childhood memories of playing that as a kid. I used to rent that every now and then. Got some of the Castlevania games. Actually, it's hard getting my footing because I'm standing on like a staircase, so I got the original Castlevania game, and I also have Simon's Quest. I do not have Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse yet, which I would really like to find that one. I don't understand why the NES Classic has the first two Castlevania games on it, not the third one. And then you got some of these games by Jaleco that put their name on it instead of the actual game, like City Connection. I can't remember if I did a video on that or not. There's another one. Bases Loaded. Double Dragon and Double Dragon 2. I just bought those two games today. Actually bought a total of 4 games today. I'll show the other ones when I get to them. See, that's another one, Double Dragon. They have Double Dragon 2 on the NES Classic, but not the first one. It's like, why put the second one if you're not going to put the first one on there? I mean, Castlevania is a little bit more understandable. At least they got 1 and 2 and not 3, but if you're going to put a sequel on there, put the original. Yeah, so when I first started collecting games, it was probably like back in 2011. I first went and bought all the games I owned as a kid, which were probably about 10 or 15 games, and I bought the ones that I rented as a kid, which is a lot. Actually, let's go back through this and I'll point out the ones I owned. I owned Adventure Island as a kid, Back to the Future, baseball, Simon's Quest, see, and there's also some games I don't have that I used to own, like Excite Bike. I never really went out of my way to find that one because it's available on the Wii and on the NES Classic. That might be all the games on the... Oh, Gumshoe. This is actually my original cartridge that I had from back when we got it, whatever. Not sure what year we got that. Now the sleeve isn't necessarily the same sleeve, but the cartridge is. I remember my sister and I bought that as a kid, and then come to find out we needed the NES Zapper, which we didn't have, so we practically never really got to play it. There was one time my friend loaned me his Zapper, so we did get to play it at least a few times. Okay, next shelf. Karate Kid. This is another game I had, another one I had as a kid, and I recently beat that, so I uploaded it as a YouTube video. Should get another copy with the better label. The Zelda games now, I have the original Zelda game, the gold cartridge, but for Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, I got the gray cartridge, so I think it would be cool to get both the gray and the gold of both. Mario Brothers. A lot of people don't know about Mario Brothers. They've heard of Super Mario Brothers. So if someone was at a pawn shop or something and came across this, they'd probably think it's the original, but it's actually not. It seems like a lot of people I talked to didn't realize there was Mario Brothers before Super Mario Brothers. Mega Man 3 is another one I just bought today. Now, I'm not really a fan of the Mega Man games. They're just way too hard for me. Paperboy, that's another one I used to have as a kid. Now, most of these cartridges are not the original ones I had as a kid. I went and sold most of them or traded them into a used video game store. But as I mentioned, Gumshoe, that might be the only original NES game that I had as a kid that I have now. Simpsons, Bart vs. the Space Mutants, that's another one I had as a kid. Super Mario Brothers, I think just about everyone had that one. TNC Surf Design, that's another one I had. Yeah, I was unfortunate to own quite a few LJN games. And Tecmo Super Bowl, I think I got that towards the end of my NES days, just before getting the Super NES. And back to the shelf. Tetris, another one I used to have it when I was a kid. And I think that's all the NES games I owned as a kid. As I mentioned, it already said Excite Bike is one I didn't have, or that I don't currently have. And we got the NES Zapper and the NES Game Genie. There's a cup I got one year, like a big coffee mug for Christmas or my birthday. I can't remember which two. My birthday's Christmas Eve, so it's kind of hard to remember what I got for Christmas and what I got for my birthday, but yeah, I tried drinking out of it one time, but it's like twice the size of a normal coffee cup, so it's like you got 2 cups of coffee in 1 cup. It starts getting cold too quick. Okay, now look at the Super NES games. See, I had my NES from like 1988 to 1993, and then Christmas of '93 I got the Super Nintendo. I didn't rent quite as many Super Nintendo games. Donkey Kong Country is one of the games I had in Super Nintendo. Yeah, that one right there, it says Joey D on it, Family Feud. I bought that from a pawn shop. And we got another shelf over here. MLBPA baseball. That's one I had as a, I guess not as a kid, as a teenager. I was 17 when I got the Super Nintendo. And back down here, next shelf. Yeah, I really started getting into hockey around the time I got the Super Nintendo. I remember NHL '95 having the most memories playing that one. 95 was just a really huge upgrade over 94, I think. 96 was a little bit better than 95. After that, it seemed like they kind of started going downhill, but I mean, it's understandable. EA Sports was working on Nintendo 64 and PlayStation games at the time, so they probably didn't focus too much attention on the Super Nintendo and Genesis. SimCity is a game I ended up getting on the Super Nintendo probably when I was in my early 20s. Street Fighter 2. Now, I had a Street Fighter 2 game that I got when my parents bought me the Super Nintendo. They also got me a couple games with it. I don't think it was Turbo, though. I think it was just regular Super Street Fighter 2. That one's hard to read. Oh, Super High Impact. That's one of the ones I had. Another one my parents got me with the Super Nintendo. That one right there says NCAA basketball. It's actually Super Mario All-Stars. I just had a problem with the plastic broke, so I went and replaced the game with another plastic thing. Tecmo Super Bowl is a game I had. I ended up trading that to somebody for NHL '95. And then I ended up getting Tecmo Super Bowl 3 Final Edition. I didn't even know about Tecmo Super Bowl 2 Special Edition until much later in my life. Those are all my Super Nintendo games. See, every time I get a game, I have to end up moving them all. Like just today, I got the 2 Double Dragon games, and I got the Mega Man 3 game. So I had to take 3 games out of that spot right there. Push these over and put those 3 there. I had to take these 3 out right there, move them over to there, you know, and kind of squeeze the games in wherever they fit, and alphabetically. Okay, next shelf. Got the Game & Watch. Now, originally when I got that, I thought it was one of the originals from the 80s. Come to find out that they're remaking them. Down here I got my Sega Genesis games. There's The Lion King. I just did the video on that one last week. Now the Mortal Kombat games, I have Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 on both Super Nintendo and Genesis. I'd like to get Mortal Kombat 3 on both. That way I could do like a full video on all the Mortal Kombat games. I'd like to do that by September of next year, because September 13th of 1993 was Mortal Monday. It's when Mortal Kombat was first released on the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. So on September 13th of 2023 would be the 30-year anniversary. Be a perfect time to do a video for it. So now, Sega Genesis, I never had one as a kid. I recently just got it last year. I think it was February of 2022. Down here we got the Atari games. I got 2 copies of Asteroids. That's a game I had as a kid. Yeah, Atari 2600 was the first console I had. I can't remember how old I was when I got that. I'd say either 8, 9, or 10 years old. I got the NES when I was 12 years old. E.T. is another game I had. A lot of people bash that game, call it the worst game of all time, but I actually didn't think it was that bad. I mean, there's many NES games I think are worse. Home Run. I had a baseball game back then, but I can't remember which one it was. Some of these games I have not done videos on yet. Like, Demons to Diamonds, I don't think I did. I don't think I did basketball. But I mean, hooking the Atari 2600 up is really hard. It's just too much of a hassle. I'd have to get a lot more games before doing that. Got some more amiibos, Luigi and Mario. Oh, and I forgot. Up there I got Bowser. You can't really see him. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on the shelf that's been here for like 50 years or more that I want to get rid of. Next shelf we got my Nintendo 64 games. I'm really happy to find all these end labels. I ordered them from eBay. There's pretty much an end label for every single game in there, and sometimes there's like duplicates or 3 or 4s of certain games. It's kind of weird. So far, every game I've gotten on the Nintendo 64 just happened to have a label with it. So I was an adult by the time I got the Nintendo 64. I was like 21 or 22 years old. I bought GoldenEye, Mario Kart, and Super Mario 64. So I've done videos on many of these games. I have not done Castlevania yet. I think I did do Diddy Kong Racing. I did not do Donkey Kong 64 yet. I tried Doom. Actually, I can't remember the Super Nintendo version or the 64 version, and I was just confused. So I'm going to have to go back and do that again and try to figure it out. Mortal Kombat 4 I have not done yet. I have done Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Yeah, maybe when I do that Mortal Monday video, maybe I'll do a part 1 on my Super NES and Genesis games, and I'll do a part 2 on my 64 and PlayStation games. That's Superman. I have not played that game yet. I heard it was terrible. Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey. Now, I did have a Wayne Gretzky's hockey game for the Nintendo 64, but I can't remember if it's that exact one. I think there's 2 different Wayne Gretzky hockey games. This one's Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey. I'm sure when I play it, I'll probably remember if I did that one or not. Next, take a look at my Nintendo Switch games. I really don't have a whole lot of those. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, my all-time favorite game. I do have the sequel, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, pre-ordered, but it's not released until May. I think it's May 23rd of 2023. Super Mario Maker 2 is another one I play quite a bit of. Down here we got my Super Game Boy. It plugs into the Super Nintendo so you can play Game Boy games. Got my Game Genie for the Super Nintendo. And the Game Shark for the Nintendo 64. Okay, one more shelf to go. We've got PlayStation games. Now PlayStation's another one I bought as an adult. I bought it shortly after buying the Nintendo 64, and the only reason I bought it was because of NHL 99. So yeah, that's... Okay, so I mentioned that Gumshoe is the only cartridge I had on Nintendo that was my original. Well, now with Nintendo 64 and PlayStation, those are still original. You know, my GoldenEye cartridge, Mario 64, Super Mario 64, and my NHL 99 one on the PlayStation. Those I bought when they came out, like back in the late 90s. So at least I know they're not repros. So most of these games I have, you never know if they're going to be real or repros, but I mean, I don't really have any games that are that valuable, so I don't think I have any repros. I mean, nobody's going to do a repro of like a $5 game. Some Sega Dreamcast games, which... Oh, you know what? I forgot to mention I think when I did my top shelf, I forgot to mention my Sega Saturn games. I mentioned GameCube and Wii U, but we can go back up and look at them. So, anyway, on the Dreamcast, we got Mortal Kombat Gold, Sonic Adventure, and Soul Calibur. Now, I've never played any of those games. I've never even played my Dreamcast yet. So, 2022 was a year for Sega. I ended up getting my Genesis 1 month. A month later, I got the Saturn. Or no, I went Genesis, then I got the Dreamcast and the Saturn. All 1 month apart from each other. I think it was February, March, and April. Or maybe it was March, April, and May. And here we got a Wii game, Wii Sports. I got that with the Wii when I bought it back in 2011. Down here we've got Atari 5200 and Game Boy games. I never had the Atari 5200 as a kid, but I had a friend that had it. The only games I remember playing is Pingo and I think Popeye. I think that is so cool to see an Atari cartridge with the Nintendo name on it. So yeah, we got Mario Brothers in the Atari 5200. We also have Mario Brothers on the NES. Same game, but different consoles. Look at the Game Boy games. When I was a kid, my sister had Simpsons Escape from Camp Deadly. She also owned Home Alone. We each had our own Game Boy. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan was a game I had. And Tetris was a game we both had. This one I must have got from a pawn shop or something. It's got someone's name on it. And on the bottom of the shelves I got all these VHS tapes where I used to tape Star Trek The Next Generation. At some point I want to get rid of those. It's just kind of hard to throw all those VHS tapes in a trash bag. Way too much and probably bust through. I'm not sure if there's any place that recycles them. Trying to pick out which game I'm going to do next week. I might do the Mega Man game. There's mostly, out of most of the games I haven't done videos on yet, it seems like NES is the one I got the most of. Of course, that NES is also my biggest collection too. Yeah, now the Doom games are really popular. I hear a lot of people talking about them, but I've got Doom on Super Nintendo and on the N64, so I gotta figure out how to play those. Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say I own Barbie Supermodel. I did a video on that years ago and it was terrible. Never played the game since then. Couldn't figure out. It was really weird. Let's go over the games I used to rent. Like, that I have memories of renting. Once we get up here. So, yeah, there's the Sega Saturn games I forgot to mention. I've got The Lost World Jurassic Park and Pebbles Beach Golf Links. Yeah, the Jurassic Park game was just really weird. It was unusually designed. Okay, so the rentals. American Gladiators I rented a few times. Back to the Future 2 and 3 I used to rent quite a bit. Baseball Stars I rented quite a bit. Bill and Ted's Excellent Video Game Adventure I rented quite a bit. It's kind of funny, used to rent quite a few LJN games which are terrible, but at the time at least there's a lot of like exploration you could do. So you could spend a lot of time playing the game before getting bored with it. Caveman Games. I rented that one quite a few times. I don't know why, because now I just think it's really frustrating. Deja Vu. Home Alone I rented quite a few times. Maniac Mansion was probably one of my #1 rentals. Love that game. Actually surprised I didn't own some of these games because I liked them so much. Surprised I didn't ask for them for Christmas. Motor City Patrol, that's the one I used to like renting quite a bit as a kid. I used to like playing it then, but I play it now and I get bored with it like way too quick. North and South, another one of my favorites. I recently did a video on my top 50 favorite video games of all time. Spy vs. Spy, another one of my favorites. It says Mad on the end label, but inside Spy vs. Spy. Super Mario 2, Super Mario 3, obviously. I think everyone played those a lot. I used to rent those quite a bit. Ninja Turtles I rented quite a bit and often got frustrated. Top Gun I used to rent quite a bit. I like that game. Wall Street Kid's another one I used to rent quite a bit back in the day, but I play them now and it's like I get bored with it. It's like, what was I thinking? Who Framed Roger Rabbit's another one I rented quite a bit. Another one that's really hard, but you can explore a lot. Today at the video game store, every time I go in there to buy some retro games, one of the clerks will show me some other NES games they have. Be like, oh, here's a few you might want to be interested in. And it turns out I already have those games. Like Xenophobe was one of them they showed me today. I already have it. Terrible game. Super Mario Duck Hunt combo, which is kind of cool because I have Duck Hunt up here. Where is it? Oh, there it is, right next to Fester's Quest. And then I've got the Super Mario Duck Hunt combo. Along with the Super Mario Brothers, so it's cool. I got Super Mario Brothers, I got Duck Hunt, and I got the combo of Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt. And I can't remember what the other game was he tried to show me that I already had, but Pega streams around it quite a few times. Super Nintendo, some of my favorite rentals were American Gladiators, Faceball 2000, which I always just called Faceball. Mario Paint I borrowed from a friend, or a friend of a friend. Really love that game. Michael Jordan's Chaos in the Windy City is another one I used to rent quite a bit. Micro Machines. Mortal Kombat 2, I remember when that came out. Me and my friend Bobby had a friend named Floyd who got the cheat codes, or not the cheat codes, but fatalities off the internet. So we spent hours playing that game. I used to rent NHL 94 before I discovered NHL 95. Sim Ant was a game I used to love renting. Star Trek games, I was just becoming a Star Trek The Next Generation fan at the time, so I used to rent that game quite a bit. You know, I think I forgot to mention the Genesis games. Another game I got was Street Fighter 2 Special Champion. What's that say? I need new contacts. Oh, Special Champion Edition. So yeah, that's another game I got today, and that's the only Street Fighter game I know of that was on the Genesis. I just looked at the list today. So at some point I want to get another. I gotta fix this shelf here. I leaned on it the other day and now it's like bent. Might have to get some hooks and work on that this weekend. But anyway, there's another Street Fighter game on the Super Nintendo called Super. I don't know if it's Super or just Street Fighter 2, but it's the new Challengers. I did a video on that game and I have no idea where that cartridge is now. I don't know how I managed to lose it. But anyway, I want to get all the Street Fighter games on the Super Nintendo and the Genesis and then do like a full video on all of them. So now with the Nintendo 64, I didn't rent really that many games. I think the only game I remember renting is Rampage. PlayStation, I rented a game called Siphon Filter. I do not have that one in my collection, but anyway, let's look at my video game collection. 346 games. First Friday of 2024, I'll probably doing my next one on my video game collection, and who knows how many games I'll have at that time, maybe over 400, maybe even over 500. And I might have different consoles too. I'm trying to get the Sega CD and the 32X. I know I could find them online if I wanted to, but it's just something I think it's more fun finding them at the video game store. And I did come across one once at the video game store. I thought, well, I'll come back this weekend and get it, or next weekend, and you know, I don't know why I thought that, why I didn't just buy it while I was there, but I missed my opportunity. When I came back, it was gone. So anyway, that's a look at all my video games. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you in the next video next week.